Good morning. Following on from my previous upload regarding narcissistic behaviours and how people are interchangeable to narcissists. On reflection, I did it late-ish last night, and I just wanted to keep it brief because it's very difficult on here to say things sometimes in a way that is as general as possible, but also potentially help somebody, especially at the moment, particularly on YouTube. There are so many people being hurt badly, or seeing people being hurt badly by these malignant narcissistic types, if you like. Again, I'm not diagnosing anybody, I'm just going from experience and watching. As I said the other day in a previous upload, excuse my arms, I'm a bit puffy today. I do read Psychology Today a lot, which is quite a useful online magazine. And one of the things I've noticed is that, people are saying how much they've been impacted by so many people from the specific tendency of people that's bad. It's not just a general narcissism to keep us alive as human beings, but how bad it's got. And we're seeing it particularly at the moment, even more, on many communities within YouTube, if we call them communities, which we do. And it's how to recover from that, or try to recover from that. And it takes quite a long time sometimes to do that and to believe in oneself. Sometimes some people have had a history growing up of narcissistic relationships with romantic partners or friends, like we've said on here, or both. And you could have come from, say, a dysfunctional family. Who doesn't, to be honest, often, but dominated by a narcissistic parent, perhaps, or a parent with another form of mental illness or an addiction. And we do encounter them all our lives. But those of us who stick around for abuse have typically been conditioned, if you like. It's not a criticism, it's just an explanation of perhaps some people. You can become conditioned to that sort of behavioural relationship as a child. And so connecting your past with the present to recover is crucial in understanding yourself and changing those patterns. As one of my friends Arm here has well said in my previous video in the comment section, denial is what you call your frenemy. It's your first and only defence, often from childhood. When we are helpless and dependent, it's safer to deny the deficiencies in our parents, caregivers, than to admit them to ourselves. And it's also that we often blame ourselves for a problem than to question the status of the people that we depend on for survival. I myself have had that experience, and I won't go into it for my family's sake, but you don't realise as a child what obviously the parent perhaps is themselves going through mentally, or what may be their mental state. And we do see our parents as almost not godlike, but they can do no wrong, or we don't know any different, because that's what we're living with. So we kind of deny that there's harm being done to ourselves, so we develop patterns of survival. And it can mean that we repeat these unhealthy patterns and fail to protect ourselves and those we love. And it's breaking the denial about a parent, spouse, or other important relationship that's the first and most difficult step in a recovery process. For those of us with emotional empathy, of which I see an awful lot actually, contrary to what people think, more empathy often than not, true empathy, for those of us who see that and who have empathy for the feelings and perspective of others, the narcissist's lack of empathy is incomprehensible. Emotional connectedness and empathy are childhood development milestones that the narcissistic personality misses. No matter how capable the narcissist may be in other areas, these deficits are profound impairments. It's not a matter of finding the right way to explain your point of view to get the narcissist to trust you, or finally somehow proving your worth. Narcissists don't care about your explanations. You can't win their trust. And your worth, quotes, it ebbs and flows with the level of service and or status that they let you feel, or that they feel you offer them. The pathological narcissist, excuse me, my throat, does not and never will care about your feelings, as I've said before, or needs, unless they happen to align in some way with what they need. If you are a narcissist's child or spouse, that includes you. And there's a grief process with getting over living with narcissism, be it personally or on social media, which actually becomes very personal, as we all know and have seen and have felt and gone through and are going through. And it's processing the reality of that relationship, and giving ourselves time to grieve over the loss of that relationship. It's really important to allow that time of grief, and the levels of grief that you go through, and mourning these losses. It's deeply painful and it takes time. And often we do anything to avoid pain by distracting and numbing ourselves with compulsions and possibly addiction. Many of us spend years running from grief, only to find it staring us at the face in our 40s, 50s or 60s or even later. I know myself, being perfectly honest, that this is the case, and it's not because one hasn't tried to look and learn. It just takes time, and you have life to contend with, bringing up children perhaps, having a job if you can, all the day-to-day stuff that needs to be done in order to just put food on the table, whatever. And then one day, sometimes I found it, like grief or death, it takes time for your body almost to catch up with your mind, or vice versa, that this has happened. And sometimes just sitting with that grief, acknowledging it and moving through it is necessary for healing. And you have to recognise that I've discovered, you've been through a trauma, a complete trauma, particularly a long-term narcissistic abuse coming from childhood is really profound. Children in a narcissistic home experience repeated ongoing assaults to their sense of identity and wholeness that leave lasting emotions and physical scars. Such children or partners often manifest complex trauma, including anxiety, depression, chronic pain, illness. It can manifest not just in our minds but also in our bodies. I mean, you can be comparatively strong of mind, but it comes out in your body, and you can develop physical, long-term chronic illness from that abuse. So you may be coping really well on the mental aspect of it, but physically your body's kind of it's open to all sorts of immune deficiency problems and all sorts. I do speak a little bit from experience on that to a certain degree, just being open. But you can heal, because along with our capacity for suffering is a huge capacity to heal. And that happens once we begin to recognise the patterns and work in our lives and overcome the denial and understand the reality of narcissism, and move through our grief and trauma on the road to a healthier and happier state of being. And I know it's easy for me to spout on about that, but I'm also speaking from my own life experience, I'll be honest. And that's what's made me kind of want to really think about people, try to offer a little channel of a place where people might feel safe to come and offer comment. And I will never allow anyone to be abusive or harmful to anyone else within my comments, because that's not the goal that I want. I'm no authority, but I am a person, and I've lived a long life, and well, not long, but long enough that I've now really begun to recognise this, watching others, even if I've not physically met them. So we can all help ourselves to a certain degree if we're feeling really desperate or lonely or confused by this narcissistic behaviour, which is running rife across YouTube and Twitter and all those wonderful things, which can be wonderful, but they can be abused by the people who really have ulterior motives that aren't good. I would encourage, if anyone's interested, to look at Psychology Today online. It's really helpful, I find, just as a beginning spot, if you like, to see that you're not alone. It might sound easy to follow these steps or whatever, but just reading them makes you think, and just sit back, give yourself a chance to think, stop and stare, as I call it. Anyway, I hope some of that helps anybody, and I still want, as I say, my channel to be a safe space. It's not a drama channel or any of those things. It's not true crime. It's just my channel. So we're here for each other, and I genuinely mean that. So be safe, take care, look after yourselves, and don't beat yourself up if you get into these situations, because we're all, after all, only human. And as I say, if we have empathy, which many of us do, so many of us do, and we need to concentrate on that positive thing of empathy, because it is positive, and try to all move away from letting these people carry on the way they do, or just recognising this is what's happening. Anyway, I'll shut up now. It's beginning to snow here, really cold, and it's lovely to look at from inside, but yuck outside. So take care, everybody, and have a good Sunday. Much love, Karriepink.